Formbird fleet runs the show. Keys are tracked, the fuel's in check. Fleet runs smooth, no lost specs.
So, welcome everybody to the 29th Formbird Professionals Meetup. What if there was a way that you could record the use of your asset and make sure that the safety checks were done on an asset by asset basis every time the user started to turn that machine on or drive their vehicle? There is. And Formbird Fleet provides that. So today we're going to look at updates to what we call the data driver check sheet, which other people call digital pre-starts. We're also going to understand a bit more about plant use and plant hours. And so we've actually got how many hours are being used and assessing that information. And also we're going to have an open forum for discussion. Before we do that, we will get some news from Mark. So Mark, sitting there on the news desk, what have you got, Mark?
On the news desk. Well, I think the one we were just talking about, I'd like to welcome Stephen to today from Palmerston North. They just went live, we've just been told exactly a month ago. So that's all great. So Palmerston North is, midway on the North Island, probably southern part of the Northern Island in New Zealand. So officially our first Formbird Fleet vertical user as a customer. The other bit of news, we've just also just been awarded a contract in Perth, which is the equal distance the other way, the Bayswater Council. So 3 hours flight one way or 3 hours flight the other way. we're spreading our wings, you could say. So yeah, that's probably the biggest news on the fleet front at this point.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great. You guys are watching the recording or watching it live, but if you were, you could also catch up the recording. So if you want to find this recording or any other recording, you go to the resources tab on our website. Under the resources tab is blogs, and you can see all the meetups there. We always have an index underneath each meetup, so you can jump past this introduction and Mark's news and get straight into the exciting bit, which is always Adam. So without further ado, and that was a segue, we go to Adam. So Adam, tell us about it.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. So we've got a couple of things to look at today, as you mentioned. So the second one will be the plant usage, and that's different to utilization. We're not talking about the number of hours the engine is running or the number of kilometers that the vehicle has driven. It's more about recording plant usage against particular activities within the council, within the organisation. The first one that we're going to look at now is the new daily driver checks interface that Paul's been putting quite a lot of work into over the last few months. So I'll jump into sharing my screen. Once Mark gives me permission there. Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Can you guys see my screen there? I'll take that silence as a yes. So what the purpose of, I guess, the new interface that we've been working on is essentially to try and improve the way operators can complete their pre-start checks before they use the vehicle, to make it more usable across more devices, so making it more mobile friendly, more tablet friendly, but then also reducing duplication and allowing extra information to be conveyed to the person completing the checks around how the check should actually be carried out. So I've just logged into one of our demo environment here. logged in as an operator here. Just to recap, there's a few things on this page. So when I open this page, it automatically loads my assets, those that I'm allocated to or responsible for. I can also access all of the assets. And then I can also look at just my favorites, assets that I've marked as my favorites. So you can see I've got one asset here, this Toro Master. To complete the daily driver check, I can click on the asset. I can also select it by scanning the asset QR code. If you've printed out the QR codes and actually affixed it to the asset, you can do it that way. So I can select my asset and hit Create Daily Driver Check Sheet. And this loads up our digital pre-start form here. It asks me to enter the primary meter reading of the asset, so I will do that. I can see my previous unresolved issues from previous daily driver checks. So these are faults that have been reported previously during pre-starts by me or by somebody else that haven't yet been resolved by the workshop team. Here's our new check table. So you can see here that it's actually grouped into asset categories. So previously we had a column that indicated the asset category. So we've now grouped that together. So there's actually less duplication and busyness on the page. So you can see we've grouped together asset functions here. We've got all safety cars, deflector shields, blade engagement levers functioning, operation of the deck, etc., etc. We've still got our pass, fail, not applicable, and the ability to add comments here, but it's all a bit more responsive in that it responds better to the screen size. So if I collapse this down, you can see that it's collapsing down in a really friendly way, and it works really, really well on mobile devices. The other thing that we've got here that you'll see is a little help icon. This did exist in the previous checks table, but this one's a little bit more prominent. And when you click on it, it actually brings up some information about the actual checks. So in the background, you can configure certain information that you want to convey to operators and for them to be able to see when they're carrying out the pre-starts. So they can see here you can put in images. We've got a procedure here, that it's a visual check and then integrity check and then deflector shoot check and then the criteria for pass. What the outcome of the check needs to be for to be considered pass. So this actually came out of some feedback from Cardinia Council, and they were going through a bit of an audit review process of their processes, and this was one of the recommendations that came out of that, was actually to provide information to the operators of the machines about how they should carry out the checks and what passing actually looks like. Remove some of that subjectivity around it. If anyone has any questions at any stage, feel free to interrupt and chime in. So then I can go through and pass, fail my checks as I would usually. You can also see that there's the ability to add additional checks. So if someone wants to add something extra in, they can actually add that in as well. My extra check. And they can say whether it passes or fails. So if they find something that they think's a problem, there's still like an easy way to enter it in the same format basically as the rest of the checks, but something that might not have been captured in the check configuration originally. So it creates a bit of a feedback process. Once they have finished their check sheet, then they go back to the usual process. This bit hasn't changed really, in that you give it a priority, being urgent fleet out of service or non-urgent fleet operational. Those two have slightly different workflows. So the urgent ones, they go directly to the workshop as a request that they need to action. The non-urgent ones, they go to a dashboard to be reviewed. And the thinking there is that, or the experience that we've seen there is that non-urgent issues tend to be reported for consecutive days. So it's important that we don't clog up the workshop's dashboards with all of these duplicate requests essentially. So there's a bit of a process, a workflow there to achieve that. We can still do our where we're requesting the service or the repairs, being in the workshop or in the field. So I can actually select the address here. I can use the pin and pick a spot on the map there. I can attach images as well. So if I want to, if I'm on my mobile device or tablet, I can just open up the camera of the device, take a picture of the problem, and then I can also attach any images as well. So I could use one of our logos here. And that uploads straight away, hit save, and that submits it all, and then it's all there and available for the workshop and administrators to review. A little bit of a bonus that's kind of Paul's been working on very recently is the concept of looking at how people are actually carrying out the digital pre-starts, the checks, and trying to guard against people ticking and flicking, basically, which is essentially what I just did there. I didn't actually walk around and do these checks. So I was essentially just ticking boxes. Again, it's come out of Cardinia Shire Council. They were looking for a bit of analysis, I guess, on how these checks are actually being carried out. And this is based on advice from the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, wanting to have processes and procedures in place to avoid a tick and flick kind of situation. So I'm just going to jump across because this is a bit fresher. It's not in this demo environment yet. So I'm just going to jump across to our development environment here. So this is the new report, the Daily Driver Check Duration Report. If I change how long I'm going to run it for, I can run it for a bit longer. You can see there that the maximum report duration is 31 days. You can filter it by the particular person who's completing them. You can also filter it by certain assets and certain asset groups, being passenger vehicle, heavy vehicle, those sort of things. And then you can hit run report there. And you can see it pops up here with the person who's filled in the checks and a summary of all of their daily drivers. So you can see Ed here has filled in some checks recently. You can see the minutes that it took them to complete the daily driver, the total checks that were completed, and the average seconds per check. So that really quantifies the amount of time that each check is taking people to complete, and can lead to some indication of whether people are doing it really, really quickly. If it's 1 second per check, you can be pretty sure that they're just checking the boxes. But if it's a little bit longer, it's an indication that it's probably a more reliable pre-start check process. The idea here that this data can then be used to inform people management processes and improving the safety culture within the organisation, whether that's through education or whatever it might be. We've got nice summaries here, so you can see each of the checks down the bottom here, and you've got your average check time in seconds, so how long people are taking, and the count. So the green line is the total number of checks done, and the average check time is the blue line in seconds. So that's the average of all of those checks. Paul, Arkel, feel free to chime in if I'm missing something here.
Good.
Cool. And then we've got this section here, which is the report duration of individual checks. So you've got the operators or the people on the left-hand side, and a table of the expected check times, and the total seconds and the average seconds there. We've got our check details as well, so you can see each of the checks by each of the people, and you've got your check duration in seconds, so that's the actual time it took for the person to do that check, and the expected duration in seconds. So obviously, so we've got the ability there to actually, against each check, configure an expected duration that we think it'll take someone to do. And then this number should obviously be bigger than that, hopefully, or in a similar kind of range as that check expected time. If the actual duration, sorry about that. If the actual duration is less than the expected check duration, then obviously it's showing up as red there. So we can see someone's done that check very quickly. There could be a lot of underlying reasons why that's done quickly. Someone may have actually done the checks and actually walked around and done all the things they needed to do, and then come back to the pre-start checks and then, pass them all. It's not immediately clear from this data whether someone is doing it necessarily not thoroughly, and not actually doing the checks. They could still be doing the checks, but we just don't know necessarily from a technological point of view whether the lower expected check time is actually an indicator that they're not doing things properly. It kind of is an indicator that maybe something needs to be looked at, and we're trying to identify broad trends across the organisation and across people to figure out if there actually is a problem with people, ticking and flicking, basically. Any questions on this before we move on to plant usage?
The tick and flick is generated by the fact you've got check all button.
That's correct. Yeah, someone could do that, use the check all button, and that would show up in this report as probably tick and flicking.
Yeah, because historically our guys drive a number of them drive the same vehicle. So they walk around their vehicle in the morning, they look at it, they do the standard things that they need to check and make sure are okay. They jump in their vehicle, they dial up the road, they grab their phone, they go into Formbird will be from what they are at the moment, and they just go yes, no, yes, 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 no, yes. Oh, I noticed that, and move on. So either we've got it's an opportunity right now, obviously, as we put this in, to tell people they actually have to open the app and walk around with the phone at the same time. Just not sure how that'll work, but it looks good concept though. I like the idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and how it gets, like you say, how it gets put into practice in the organisation is kind of another question, isn't it? This is just a tool in the toolbox that you can use to try and identify how people are doing things, basically.
That button's been removed on the daily drivers too.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. I didn't think it was very useful, given that we're trying to avoid the tick and flick, and that button basically ticks and flicks, so I took it off.
Oh, very nice. That must have that's probably not in demo yet, is it, Paul?
It's not in demo yet, no.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why it was there. That makes sense. Does that sound good to you, Stephen?
Yeah, that's more logical. I think that'll work. The only other question I got while we're here and we're just working through that is, can the map be suppressed? Is that an option in the configuration when you're going through the chip? Because we find that takes up a reasonable amount of state and it actually confuses people.
The map?
When you've done the check and then you've got where it's going to come down. Yeah, that bit. Can that be suppressed?
So the default is that it shows up as service requested in workshop. So it's suppressed by default, I guess. Someone actually has to go in and choose that option for the map to display.
I didn't see that, but when that answers my question, so perfect.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm glad you clarified.
That's ideal.
Yeah, cool. So I'll jump across to the bit of the config side of this. So if I go into our configuration and our daily driver risk assessment verification checks configuration. So this is where we're configuring our check question categories, and these are our actual check questions. And you can see here that there's now a new column here that's expected duration. So if you actually go into one of these checks, you can see that you've got that extra field there now to enter the expected duration. I'll actually open up the demo environment as well. This was kind of a last minute thing we threw in around the tick and flick prevention. Because I'll also show you the configuration of the checks in terms of all of those procedures as well. So if I go into these, so you can see here within the actual check question itself how it's configured in the application. You've got, obviously this environment is missing that expected seconds to complete the check at the moment. But we do have our check instructions section here. So that's where the procedure has been formatted and configured, and that criteria for pass, just essentially as like a text field that can be entered. There's also the ability to embed videos and obviously images, which we saw. I've lost the example though with the videos. We'll just click through these. So that's our image one. Here we go. So this is a fluid check, and you can see here that Ed's done a fantastic job configuring all this. And you can see here that he's actually embedded a YouTube video about how to, as an example of embedding videos, how to flush and fill the cooling system, for example. So yeah, there's that one as well. Everyone happy if we move on to the plant usage side of things?
Can I ask one other quick question? You know, when you've added the question,
Yep.
you showed us how to add a question before.
Mhm.
Does that stay there for tomorrow? Or so obviously if I've added a question, it's probably going to be because I've found something that I'm not happy with and I'm going to go fail.
Yep.
Will that appear? So when Joe Blogs does this one tomorrow, it'll appear there to show whether it's still, you know, somebody should be looking at it or not. Or
Paul,
is it just
No,
the
that
other one?
it doesn't.
So it's just the other ones.
It's just it's only for that particular daily driver.
Okay.
I think the better thing to do in that case might be to provide a report of additional checks, and then they can be added to the configuration as you go. You never quite know what people are going to put in, so you could end up with anything in there.
Yeah, true.
yeah, I agree. Then it can kind of go through that QA process for the people configuring and managing the checks to see whether it should be something that's included for every other operator that uses that specific vehicle or that type of vehicle.
Yeah, it was just how do you tell? Okay, so it's not a taken off the road issue, but it's an issue that somebody who jumps in the truck tomorrow should be aware of, that there is an issue in this place. Now, that's what I was thinking about. You know, obviously, if I've raised it as an issue and it sits there, then tomorrow when it comes up, the person's going to know that. Oh, okay. I see that's still broken, hasn't been fixed yet. That's fine, but I need to know about it.
Yep. Yeah, so it would display in these unresolved issues from the previous daily driver checks while the that daily driver hasn't been completed, basically closed out.
Cool. There you go.
Cool. All right, so on to the next bit, which is our plant usage. So this is originally came about based on feedback and input from Forbes Shire Council. They were kind of originally interested in this concept of recording plant usage, and again, that's time that the asset's being used on a particular activity or job within the organisation, as opposed to actual media utilisation. And then with the implementation that we've been working on with Palmerston North and Stephen here over the last few months, we've built on this quite a lot to try and make it easier to use, and also try and start moving towards it being quite interoperable with finance reporting, because obviously this is all about capturing income for the asset. To be able to track that it's actually covering its expenses if the fleet department is running on that cost recovery basis. So we've built this plant hour generator, which is essentially just an interface to create lots of usage at once without having to create lots of individual records, on different pages. So you can see it's automatically populated with the person who's logged in at the moment. And we've also got our plant use date. So you can select dates in the past if you've forgotten to input usage. I can select the job/account code that the plant's being used on. Then I can select the assets that are being used. So I can select a single asset from this list. And you can see based on that selection there, it's populated into this generation table. So essentially what we're doing here is we're making selections to populate a generation table of kind of, all of the usage that I have done today, for example, to be able to generate all those records of that usage and income to the fleet department. Then I can select my number of hours and minutes that's being used. So we'll say that one's being used for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And you can see those entries there are actually populating down into this table here. But then I can also change these individually as well. So I can make that, 45 minutes, and I can make that 2 hours, for example. Um, so we've got some extra buttons here. So I can say, all right, so I use that asset on this job. Actually, I want to add a new asset, a new job, sorry, some usage against a new job, but for the same asset. So I can hit new job, retain the assets. So that's cleared that job that I've selected there, but retain that asset that I'd selected. So I can add some more usage in. And you can see that setting the hours and minutes down there. I can also obviously edit it there as well. I can also say it's a new job and I want to remove the assets as well. So we're saying it's a whole new activity, different assets. I can select, drainage services here. And then we have this concept of asset combinations. So I can actually select asset combinations here. And these are a unique combination of assets that I've created as a user, basically, that allow me to select multiple assets in one go. So you can see I've got this asset combination here, which is Isuzu FSR with road marking trailer. And you can see the assets that are part of that combination being that Isuzu FSR. And then we've got the 388, Plan ID 388 road line marker. So I can select that. And you can see it's populated those assets into the assets field. And then I can enter the amount of time that these assets were used. And you can see that's added it in down the bottom here. I can also remove any of these. So you can see each asset or each row of the asset in the table allows you to remove it if you want. So say you didn't want to use the road line marker for some reason, you can actually just hit the bin button and remove that from the table there. And you can also see that it's grouping it according to job, sorry. So we've got our drainage services job there, and we've got our parks and gardens job there, and it's grouping the usage together for ease, basically. So if we're happy with that, then we can actually go through and generate our plant hours. And that's where we actually generate those records for each of those rows in the table there. So you can see here now in this table, which is filtered for today, basically, you can see we've got that usage there, when it was created, when the plant was actually used, what the job account code was, and the number of hours of that usage. We can also, with our asset combinations, we can do other things as well. We can update existing asset combinations. We can also add new asset combinations. So I could make this one here, which is Ranger plus brush cutter. I'll link it to there. I'll just find a Ranger in here and still. So that's my plan hour asset combination. So if I go back to my plan hours generator now, go back a couple of pages, and then I hit show asset combinations, you can see I've got my Ranger plus brush cutter combination there. I can add some usage to this as well. So say I wanted to do some footpath upgrading. You can see it's added in those two assets there. We can also utilize the parent-child relationship of assets as well. So if I add in another job, I can add in an asset here. So I've selected P18 here, but you'll see that it's actually added in a child component, a child asset of that main asset there as well. And then I can go through and add the time that I want to record for each of those as well. So we'll just put 4 hours in for all of that. And you can see that's added in those times. So it really allows you to compile all of your usage for the day, and then actually just generate all of those records again there. So the other side that we've been working on of this with Palmerston is around journals and basically interoperating the fleet system and being able to record the plant usage in here, but getting the right inputs and outputs to that process. So getting the right financial account codes into the system, getting those associated with the correct assets, and then also getting all of the outputs from the system. So being able to export this usage so that it can actually be imported to a finance system and tracked that way. So I'll swap windows again. So I'm swapping around a little bit today. So I've just swapped to kind of an administrative view of the world. And we've got our journals list. And what we're doing here is basically on a nightly process, we're automatically generating these plant usages. So you can see here, these are some usages from the 2nd of December, a couple of days ago. And you can see all of those details there. So when the usage occurred, the account code, who was the asset, all of those things are concatenated into a CSV file, basically. And you've got all the links to the underlying documents as well. So you can see all of the actual records and link that together. The output in spreadsheet format looks like this. So you've got the date of the report, the date of the actual usage. So you can see the date of the report is the 2nd of December when it was run, but some of the usage that's being captured is actually for the 1st of December. So it might have been entered on the 2nd, but be for the 1st. You've got your the amount of money. You've also got a pair of rows for each transaction. So one represents the expense to the job, and one represents the income to the actual asset account code, essentially. So if I dive into one of these, say if I go into this one. So if I look for P55 from my asset list, so I'll just go into this asset here, and I'm just going to jump down to the finance section of the asset. Where are we? Financials. So you can see we've got our account code configured here, and this actually aligns with what the output is in the journals that we're exporting. These account codes, we also have the ability to import those as well. So you can see we've got the ability to add new account codes and also the ability to import account codes. If you get an export of account codes from your finance system, you can import them into the application quite easily with the name of it, the type, so where it should be used within the application essentially, the description, and whether or not it's currently active. So obviously updating deactivated ones. This is also available through APIs. So Paul's put together APIs, so you can do all this programmatically from your finance system as well if you want to. Any questions about any of that?
Adam, so this is basically describing an external task where you can import into altitude authority. Is that what this is all about?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the process we've been going through with Palmerston. They're an altitude site as well. So yeah, this is basically an export that you can automatically kind of get out of the system. It's automatically generated, and then you can retrieve from the system, and then you can import that into altitude.
Okay.
Stephen, you know more about this than I do. Is that a fair description of the process?
Yeah. So each morning at the moment, because altitude is there's a bit of a pain to get stuff into. Each morning we take this this file, do a quick check, throw it into the uplift file for altitude, and the finance guys lift it straight up and it goes in. And so yeah, it does all the entries that we need, debits the job or the works order that we're wanting to put it to, and credits the plant item, and it spins the same journal for if you're using the booking system. So it does exactly the same thing. The booking generates the debit in the right place, the credit in the right place, and we just get the journal straight out, push it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bookings and the plant usages are kind of considered equal from a reporting point of view in the daily journals.
Yep, and we're almost there around getting the account codes to automatically feed in, so that the system always has the current and open, not closed or held or anything else account codes.
Oh, that's good. Have you been running into any problems where people haven't had the account codes that they need with the manual process?
Usually it's around the accountants have closed something.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So from the original list reloaded, and yeah, was the open being closed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's been closed in the accounting system, but hasn't been closed in Formbird, because it's hard to keep systems in parallel.
Correct. We're running we've got temporarily running a report that just tells me what's been created any time in the last week. And we open them manually.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
So the account loading tool is really easy. It works really well.
Yep. Very nice. Sean, can you see that being useful for you guys at Bega Valley? Obviously, we've kind of talked about authority altitude integrations with you guys a little bit.
Yeah, we have to check with IT. We had a meeting with IT about a month ago, and they said they couldn't do the import of external documents into authority altitudes, and that's Dion and I just sort of talking about just then. We need to seek further clarification. The one possibility also, which might be good, is importing labour time of the workshop staff into authority as an expense. So that was my next question, because that's a killer, because we've got to manually key all those charge out and create a pivot table and all sorts of stuff. So that could be done for workshop staff by hours. That's another win as well. But I definitely see merit there. It's just getting those work orders into our system.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's been some challenges getting the data out of altitude of the account codes. The next phase, again, earlier on, we were talking with Stephen about their implementation, where they're kind of up to, and the next phase is to look at their workshop, and part of that is looking at the time that your technicians are working on jobs, and making that similarly easy to export from Formbird to get into your finance system.
Yeah, effectively, Sean, we're going to generate a journal with every job that the guys are working on, and it'll just put it to the plant and debit the plant and credit the holding account for the funds.
How often do you do that? Would you be looking at a monthly transaction doing that, or fortnightly?
I expect it to be a daily journal.
Okay.
Because it's the same as any other daily journal, right? We'll just have the pair of journals will go into the AA upload folder, and then it'll just get uploaded each day.
Okay. I
agree that the interface AA aren't very good at accepting stuff in, so you've got to push it through manually, but it's still only one, it just goes into the folder and gets pushed up.
Yeah, that's kind of our next step, is to look at that workshop side of it and figure out how that how that all hangs together, basically, and we can make that reportable.
Perfect.
That generates a journal.
Very nice. Any other questions? Madison, I saw you there in the background. Any other general questions, Stephen or Sean? Anything Formbird Fleet before we finish up?
No, all good. Thanks, Adam.
Cool. Thanks, Sean. All right, I think back to you, Paul.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Adam. As always, very good. Love the structure of it all. Now, this will be our last one for this year, our last meetup for this year. And I don't even want to say it, but February the 5th will be our next meetup. So I guess it's goodbye, but also happy holidays, Hanukkah, whatever. Merry Christmas, basically. So we're having a break, aren't we? We're taking some time off over Christmas, and hopefully everybody else is too, and their machines keep running, no problem. So we'll see you all next year, and thank you everybody for coming. And bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone. Have a good break.
Thanks, everyone.